Good morning, CLC. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this service. And in this moment, I invite you just to relax in this moment. Put your day and your week aside. If you feel so inclined, take a few deep breaths, allowing your body to just relax in this moment. Allowing your mind to walk away from all confusion, all doubts, and walking toward that light, that love that refreshes us all. Go ahead, take another nice deep breath and allow yourself to be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your right hand, and let my words act as your own. For your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge.
I acknowledge.
Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems, while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of this infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender.
I surrender.
Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive.
I forgive.
Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose.
I choose.
I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. Visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept,
I accept,
knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me. I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release.
I release.
Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or a mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in the room with me this morning. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in the room or virtually on this broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude and saying, I'm grateful for the good in your life. I'm grateful for the good in all of your lives. Thank you for being here this morning again. Thank you for being a part of this. We, of course, have a wonderful service ready for you to go. Jesse's over there making his final little notes and everything, so I know it's going to be good. Oh, please, by all means, come and announce.
Okay. Many of you know who David Dewhurst is?
Oh, I saw this. I know what she's going to say now.
You do?
I do. I saw it on Facebook. Go, say it.
Today is the 35th anniversary of David's 40th birthday.
Yes. So I don't know if everyone heard that today is the 35th anniversary of David Dewhurst, Reverend David Dewhurst's 40th birthday. So happy birthday, Reverend David Dewhurst.
And we will sing to him after we turn Facebook Live off so we don't have to pay for it.
Very nice. I like that. I like that. Okay. So, yeah, if you're on Facebook Live, you're going to miss out on the song, but you can always just message him singing, and he'll love it. He'll love it. So just do it. Just do it. And so with that, again, that and so much more is included in your email. If you're in the room and you're not receiving emails, you can sign up in the vestibule. If you're online and not receiving emails, we will have a link in the chat in just a minute for you to sign up through Constant Contacts. Please make sure you check your emails weekly, because all of this information, except for Reverend David's birthday, which is on Facebook but not on the email, everything else is included in the email, though, I promise. So
That's got to be a hard song to sing. Because you start on a high note. You jump right, yeah. So, see, that kind of goes to my talk today, because, like, I'd listen to that and I'd think, I give up. I can't sing. Lisa put a beautiful thing on, on the Center Facebook page. May Oliver. Do you know her, the poet? Oh my gosh. Oh my God. If you're not familiar with her work, look in her, May Oliver. And it basically said, so I wake up wondering, do I have arthritis? Is my eyesight fading? I'm getting older. I'm this and this. And will I ever be able to sing? Because whenever I sing, it's just awful. And then I remember nature. I remember beauty, wonder. And I go out into the garden and I sing. So sometimes what happens is when you're in the presence of greatness, you get motivated to practice. Sometimes when you're in the presence of greatness, you say, I can never do that. Turn away from it. So, more on that in a minute. Welcome to Creative Life Spiritual Center. I'm Jesse Jennings. Today is week 3 in a series that's drawn increasingly loosely from a book called The Builder and the Plan by Ursula Gestefeld. Who? 125 years ago, she was something. And she's not well remembered today outside of the circle of New Thought teachings, or even within it, So I found her work a few years ago and included her in a series on New Thought women. There were 12 women who were key pillars in the early New Thought teaching. And this month we bring her out into relief and look at her work, which builds on last month, which had to do with the heroic journey. At the end of that, we return home. When we return home, we decide we want to build something. So in the first week of this series, the first week of May, 2 weeks ago, we laid a foundation. Last week, we put up the studs. We started framing out. Today, we're going to put on some walls and some doorways, looking at how we do this life. Lisa and I had a conversation. I'm bringing Lisa into this increasingly often as we lead up to her big night in a couple of weeks. We had a conversation about hope. And I'm not going to go into it because it's her thinking and it's her talk you're going to hear in a while on hope. But I am going to say this. There are times when we come here to this place to celebrate all the good that has just blossomed in the world. And there are times when we come here to this place facing horrors in this world. And this is one of those mornings because of what took place in Buffalo, New York yesterday. A killing of people who went to the store to buy groceries because of the color of their skin. I don't like living in a world like this, neither do you. We're all in shock. And we grasp for something. And the only direction I know to reach is up. The only direction I know to go is to the source of all of us, that loves all of us enough to have created us into this world, and to pray again, but building on past prayers, that we come to our senses as a people and recognize our oneness and take good care of each other and discover where mental illness exists and rush to it before it can act itself out in the world in harm of self or harm of others. So I want you to know that all of us, those of you watching, those in the room, we're all in prayer, we're all in fear, we're all in mourning, we're all in a whole mixture of things going on in us. But we come here today for a specific purpose, and that is to turn back to the source of our own being, saying, how can I cope? How can I get through this day? How can I do a little better? Because we all need strategies. Our lives don't stop. First thing tomorrow, or maybe this afternoon, you got stuff to do. You got people counting on you, And you got to rise to the occasion, and you got to have a plan. You got to have a plan, even if the plan is temporarily to not have a plan. Even if the plan is to coast for a while, it's still a plan. So we come here and we work on some strategies, and today is about this. I want you to do something for a second, little strange, but I'm getting it from Ursula. Okay? She says, take your hand. I'm using here my left hand. Take your other hand and place it across this hand like so, where only your fingers of the one hand are visible to you. See what I'm saying? And she's saying what this illustrates, and there's the little thumb poking out. But we're going to focus, rather than fold the thumb, which gets tired, we're going to focus on the four long fingers, She says, now this is the difference. That's an important spiritual difference between separation and distinction. So you look at your 4 fingers there, and they're all different. They're probably all different lengths. I know some people, their index finger and their middle finger is the same length, and there's all kinds of different configurations of your hand. You may have long, skinny fingers. You may have short, stubby fingers. It doesn't matter. You may like your fingers. Some people admire their fingers. Oops, move my hand. Other people are like, ooh, I don't like them. I need to fuss with them some more. I need to trim them and cut them and chew on them or whatever. But there are your fingers, right? And if you didn't know there was a hand underneath, you'd say, well, they're all separate. They're all flying solo, each of these fingers. But you move the covering hand and you realize, oh, they're all united. They're just distinct. You can do that now if you're tired of holding hands with yourself. You can. We used to do that. We'd stand in a circle, let's all take hands, and everybody did this. And it's like, no. Anyway, you look at your fingers, you see, we're all distinct, but we're not separate. We as individuals are not separate from source. Experiences, conditions, circumstances are not separate. They are distinct. Today is a day unlike any other. It's a Sunday. For me, that looks pretty much the same in schedule, in routine. On Sundays, I get up at about the same time. I drink about the same amount of coffee, sometimes too much, and you can tell. But, I get dressed, I get in the car, I drive here, deliver a talk, and then it's on into the afternoon. But everyone is distinct. Every experience is distinct. One day is pretty much like another, but not exactly like another. Nothing is exactly like anything else. A guy in Wisconsin last winter or the winter before said, and it was widely reported, that he had found 2 identical snowflakes. What I think happened was by the time he got them in front of a TV camera, they'd what? Melted. So really, he's like, trust me, they were, no. Anyhow, everything is somewhat different from everything else, but not separate, If you and I will take the full implication of that into our lives, we will be living in the presence of God. We will be living in heaven. Not the afterlife in the clouds, this heaven, here on earth, the New Jerusalem, however you want to style it. If we will recognize that everything is connected to everything else in one divine nature, then what is a problem? A problem exists in the same whole system as its answer. What is a challenge? A challenge exists in the same system as its response, as its successful response. What is a goal? Its achievement, and so on. They exist in the same connectedness, in the same continuum. And we will still freak out at the occasional problem. And that's human, and that's perfect. We will still, oh, what am I going to do? Wait a minute. What's that mantra I learned at that place on Spring Stoop? There is one life. That life is God, source, ground of all being. That life is all the life there is. That life is my life right now. That's what I'm going to remember. And then I'm going to look back at my freaking out self and kind of chuckle and kind of, well, you know, look at me there. You know, I kind of got all worked up because now I've remembered there's one life. There's one life. And so when problems occur within ourselves, when problems occur in society, when horrible things happen, and not just to other people, but like the grief that many of, well, all of us and many of us acutely have felt over the last several years of the number of losses in this faith community, the number of empty chairs that were filled by people who have now gone on, and we miss them. And you know, in June we're going to memorialize one of our own that we miss very keenly, Reverend Marcia. Okay, well, even that, shock, grief, despair, misery, all of it, one life. And we have latitude in that life to feel however we feel, and latitude in that life to reach up for something that reminds us of the wholeness and wellness of who we are. So wherever you are today in your emotional landscape, consider this going forward. There's a power. We didn't make it up. In fact, Ernest Holmes, especially in his speaking, and his writing too, but especially in his speaking, when you listen to the few recordings that we have of him in the one video, he often would say, we didn't make this thing up. They'd be like, well, you made up this teaching. Yeah, he made up the teaching. He was first to admit that. He said, I didn't get this. I didn't go up some mountain and receive this from God. He said, I made this up by reading other people and doing my inner work and coming to the conclusion that there's this thin live wire that runs through all world faith tradition. Sure, you bet. Religious science made it up. But he said, we didn't make up the law of mind. We didn't make up the principle. We don't reinvent it every time we do our work. It pre-existed us. It made all of this world that we came into. I was noticing the big white puffy clouds today. Okay, some days they're stringy and some days they're kind of non-existent. Today they're big and white and puffy, and I don't know what that means because I didn't study clouds, or when they had the cloud class, I wasn't paying attention, but isn't it nice? And then I thought, man, it sure is warm out today. Well, it's been warm, you know. We're still 5 weeks from summer. All of this, like I mentioned last week or the week before, in terms of the seasons, we inherited all of this. Look at this. I didn't ask for this. Mom and Dad. Who didn't ask for what they had, you know. Mom and Dad got together. This is what was. And the thing that amazes me about growth is that where does all of this come from? It's like we feed children and they grow. And where does that's not food stuck on them. You know what I mean? It's like there's added bulk and muscle and tissue, and not only increasing volume and mass, but increasing intricacy and precision. Everything in the here comes out of the there. Everything in the now comes out of the when. You know? There's an unseen realm that outpictures in form, and it's doing that. And you and I don't cause that to happen. We modulate how it happens. We manage how it happens. We decide which street to walk down today, streets that we didn't pave. This is how we navigate life. And there's a patterning intelligence that if we could stand far enough back, we would see it. And there's a school of thought that says that when we go on into the next experience, and we're no longer bound by kind of the mortal mindset, we do see it. We do see the vast patterning. Now, of course, we don't know, but it's a nice thing to think. We want something nice to happen when we get there, besides a buffet, you know, right? So, if we could see the vast pattern, a buffet would be nice. If we could see the vast patterning intelligence right now where we are, we'd recognize that this too shall pass. This too shall pass. I remember, do you know Robert Schuller? You will in a minute if you read the comments on Facebook. But Dr. Robert Schuller, he was a student of Norman Vincent Peale, and at the Crystal Cathedral in California, which was part of the Dutch Reformed tradition, as was Peale's Marble Collegiate Church in New York. But they were New Thought teachers. Peale was a friend of Ernest Holmes, and his protege was Robert Schuller. Robert Schuller wrote he created a thing called the Possibility Thinker's Bible. And it was the Bible, some version, possibly the Standard Revised, where he had gone through and in this publishing of it, highlighted all of the positive passages. All of the positive passages. Taken wildly out of context, of course, because that's what happens when you highlight, you know. But it's quite impactful. And if you're looking for, I think you can still find the thing online. If you're looking for a passage of, if you're into Bible, you know, and you're looking for a passage of Scripture that's uplifting, this will lead you right to it. But why I bring him up was that he had a saying that came out of his creation of that book that has stuck with me, obviously, where he said, when in Scripture do you read, and it came to stay? Nowhere. You only read, and it came to pass. And it came to pass. All things pass, all things change. You and I modulate, you and I manage how they change, in what direction they change, particularly in our own experience. Because it's there that we have control, yet in your own experience, as you manage it and modulate it, you can enroll others in a similar vision and form a group. So when an Ernest Holmes, for instance, gets up and says a bunch of stuff to a room full of people, and they decide they like what he's saying enough that they want to come back next week, or they want to fill out a membership card or something, you know. That's how you enroll people in a collective vision. But they're each doing their own work. They're each managing and modulating their own experience in consciousness. Now, I was going to read to you a little something out of, I kind of already covered this one part, but this is, yeah, we can move past the hand thing. I was going to tell you what she said about the hand thing, but I kind of already did it. Okay, here's another thing that we do that is related to the first. The distinction versus separation question is a judgment. So we'll make a judgment. We'll say, well, this is all separate, like the fingers without the hand underneath. Or like in Stranger in a Strange Land, Robert Heinlein's book, they had a character or set of characters called fair witnesses. Do y'all read science fiction? And you brought in, this is kind of cool, you brought in a fair witness to tell you what they perceived. What's really going on here? They were like an expert in non-judgmental discretion, I guess you'd call it. So that, for example, if you led this person up to a house, seen from one side, you said, what color is that roof? They might say, well, this side of it is brown. Now, anybody else would say the roof is brown. They'd say this side of it is brown. Why? Because they can't see the other side. See? They'd only report back the absolute perception up to its limits. Most of us infer things. Most of us go further than that. Somebody put up somewhere, I read recently, this: don't turn a bad moment into a bad day.
Yes.
Okay? That's what I mean by inferring. Oh no, this happened. My day is ruined. Who's making that determination? The self is. Or as she calls it in Builder in the Plan, the onlooker. The onlooker. The environed soul, that is to say, the soul that is incarnate and has an environment and is here and present and knows it, is to distinguish and conclude. As the onlooker, capital O, it sees or looks upon objects and afterward renders judgment upon what it sees. Don't we do that all the time? We look on things, hear things. By look, she means sense, not just vision, you know. To the onlooker pertains a possibility found nowhere else. It may mistake. It may mistake. Spirit, God, being a whole system, including everything, does not mistake. because it does not judge, because it cannot step outside of itself to render judgment. Which is why we think of it as the great I am rather than the great I am this or that. You know, it's the great I am just being. You and I, as incarnated expressions of that one, distinct but not separate, have the ability to judge. And if we have the ability to judge, we have the ability to be wrong, right? We all make mistakes. And you've heard it said, and rightly so, that though we make mistakes, we are not mistakes. No, we are conscious, thinking, frequently judging beings who don't have all the information and infer certain things and imply other things, and you get the idea. And we jump to conclusions, and sometimes we jump clear off a cliff with our conclusions. And then we have to climb back up like the coyote in the Roadrunner cartoons, you know, climb back up the face of the thing because of the judgments that we've made. Have we had a short glance at a thing and decided, oh, that's trouble, or oh, that's overwhelming, or it's an impediment of some kind, and then we look again and we're like, oh, it's really dissolved into nothing. Robert Bitzer, another great religious science teacher, he said to the one who is hiking, how did he put this now? If you're out, I'll just paraphrase it. When you're out hiking, you see a shrub, and you think it's a bear, and your hike changes. Doesn't it? You freak out a little, or run like hell down the mountain, you know. Oh, look again. Look again. Now sometimes, and this is the hard part, see, I can't tell you there are no bears. I'd love to be able to stand here. Wouldn't it be easy? All of us stand. No bears ever. But you realize metaphorically bears. You know, no threats. No, there's nothing to panic you. Nothing really to. It's all a shrub. Don't worry about it. But if you look and it's a bear and you know it's a bear, then there's another set of actions to take. That if you're going to be around bears, you should learn. Hikers, campers, outdoors people, there's a bear protocol. Okay? So we do what we do to keep ourselves safe from the situations that surround us. But here's what doesn't work. You should fill your head with the expectancy of dreadful things and lie there at night staring at the ceiling, running that loop over and over and over again. Her take on mistakes is this. She said, it's a take. It's a take. I was, somebody on TV recently, I forget who, was discussing a comedy act, and they mentioned something called a spit take. Do you know what a spit take is? A spit take is when you're drinking something and somebody says something funny or outrageous, and you spit out what you're drinking, okay? It's great physical humor if done right. It's kind of gross if not done right, but if done right, it's really funny, you know? So there are all kinds of short takes, spit takes, double takes. It's a take. And now and then there's a mistake. And all a mistake means is, oh, that isn't what I thought it was. It's kind of with a double take in it, you know? You and I make mistakes. We forgive ourselves and go on. It doesn't even rise to the level of needing to forgive ourselves. We go on. We go on and we do something better the next time. And when we hear the great ones do what they do, we might say, I could never do that. Or we might say, I will practice more. I will practice more. When I was a kid, I came from a writing family, and I thought about writing fiction. And they had me read fiction in school, and I read it out of school too. And I remember reading Hemingway And I thought, anybody can do this. You read Hemingway? Punchy, direct, short sentences. We had wine and it was good. Okay? No wide vocabulary, nothing. It was years later that I realized that it takes enormous skill to write that way, that simply, that unaffectedly, and grab you. Because as I'm sitting there kind of scorning this because it's so simple, I'm devouring every page. And the story lives with me, and the characters are vivid, and that's a great writer. I read James Baldwin, and I said, if only I could do this, I could die happy. If only I could do this, to write with that degree of emotional intensity, unaffected and out front. And I read T.S. Eliot, and I said, I give up. I give up. Nobody, no one ever needs to write anything again, because this has been done. All of these judgments, you have these too. In whatever it is that you do, whatever it is that you admire, you have these judgments, and you attach meaning to them, and you decide your own limits. And that can be a mistake. That can be a mistake. How you push through that is you realize there's always more for you. There's an inexhaustible source. I keep calling it above, because that's a nice image that I got this morning from the big white fluffy clouds. I know it's within, but sometimes within feels like heartburn, you know? Right? Sometimes it feels like agita. So I look up. I look up at the sky. And yeah. As the psalmist said, I lift up mine eyes unto the hills, whence cometh my help. Whence cometh my help? Because I'm not finding it around here. So I'll look to a higher vision of life that put me here, that says, go be you. Go be you. Go do you, you know? And that's what we need right now, I think. So in the week to come, what I invite you to consider is, where are you placing your judgments, and where are you kind of thumbtacking yourself to experiences, especially in the past? Well, I tried that once, it didn't work, or I don't know how this is going to happen, or what I'm going to need here, or something. Remember that you're never alone, you're never separate, you're distinct, and that's a beautiful thing. Nobody else can take your place, but you're intimately, ultimately connected to the only power that is, a power that always says yes, a power that has graced us with such free will that sometimes we can run amok with it. And sometimes we can make magic with it, make beauty and wonder with it, and create a community like this, frankly, where we can all get together and have these experiences that we have. So join me in knowing now there is one life, one power, one presence, one mistake-free zone called the I am that I am. And as I express from that, my needs are easily and naturally met. And supplies and materials for building out my life are placed in my hands. Expert instruction and advice jump into my mind. Other godlings I welcome into my experience to help share the work. Because life truly is a collaborative effort. Nothing happens in a vacuum. Everything around me is sourcing me, supporting me, strengthening me, and nudging me forward to speak my truth, tell my tale, sing my song. I'm ready, I'm rested, and I'm open to wherever this leads. For this knowing, the way that it manifests in form in my life and in the world's life, the way that from harm comes healing, true healing, and well-being going forward. I am so deeply grateful. I release this word now into the infinite, calling it done, and so it is.
So it is.
Thank you, Mel, and Jeffrey, for that wonderful song. Thank you, Jesse, for that wonderful message. And I thank all of you for being here and being a part of this. And as we come to giving time and our ushers make their way to the back, I want to make sure that you know that we love and appreciate everything that you give to this center. All of your donations, whether it's your time, whether it's your money, whether it is your love, whether it's your light, whether it's all the above, is greatly appreciated, it's valued, and with that, we are all one. And so we are truly grateful for you and for everything you give here. And so now I invite you to say with me, divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is.
So, all right. Jesse mentioned the hope thing. The conversation was sparked by something I posted on Facebook. It's been a few weeks, so I just looked through my screenshots to find it. And then I will leave you to imagine what I would say about this until I actually do. People speak of hope as if it were this delicate, ephemeral thing made of whispers and spider's web. It's not. Hope has dirt on her face, blood on her knuckles, the grit of the cobblestones in her hair, and just spat out a tooth as she rises for another go. So that's my idea of hope. And I borrowed that from somebody else. So really quickly, what I'd like to invite you to do is just a quick exercise for compassion, all right? Jesse already had you hold out your hands, so I'm going to ask you to do the same thing. But this time, I want you to hold your hands 6 inches apart. And if it helps to warm your hands up, go ahead and rub them just clockwise for a minute, and then pull them out 6 inches apart. And now what I want you to do is visualize all of the love, the kindness, the compassion, and whatever else that this world needs right now. And use all 5 of your senses. What does it look like? What color would it be? What would it sound like? What would it smell like? And when it is just about to burst out of your hands, bless it and let it go. Let it go out into the world, into all of the places that need it. And know that there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. And each and every one of us is a representation of that love. It is through us that that love enters this world. And so as we sit with our love, with our kindness, with our compassion, we wrap our arms around the people of Buffalo and hold them in those loving arms of spirit. Because right now, that's what we can do. And we know in our heart of hearts the world that we are bringing forth. A world where everyone is safe, where everyone is loved, where everyone has their needs met. And we hold that vision. And we let it flow through us out into the world. There is one inexhaustible source, and it flows through us. It is up to us to know who we are. And who are we? Beloved children of God. You will never look in the eyes of someone God does not love. So look in the mirror. See God looking back at you. See God loving you. and then go share. And I know this, and I hold this vision of a world filled with kindness, with compassion, with love, with joy, with peace, with happiness. I hold this vision in my heart, and I release it through my hands. And I am grateful for this vision, and I am grateful for this teaching that brought me here into the place where I can hold that vision. And I am grateful for these people, for the ministers, for the practitioners, for the musicians, for the technology, for us to do this here and spread it there. Because we are in the now, coming from the then, going there. And I release this into law, knowing that it is done. And so it is.
So it is.
Say it with me now. Something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my
I
body.
feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my
I
mind.
feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I choose
I
it.
trust it.
I trust
I
it.
use it.
I use
And
it.
I love it.
And I love it.
So it is.
And so it is.
Da-da, da-da.